Hi there, I'm Bob, from AVProEdge Systems. So, you need an HDMI video distribution system for a customer, but what system do you choose? Well, you have two technologies to choose from: HD-based or video over IP. Both technologies have their pros and cons, but before I go into that, I recommend that whatever manufacturer you choose, make sure it supports all forms of HDR. Do you know what HDR is? Let's just run over that to be sure. Come with me and I will explain. HDR is a general term that really describes two things: contrast levels, and wide color gamut. Contrast levels make the blacks blacker and the whites whiter and allow you to see all the grayscales in between. The human eye is actually very good at seeing grayscales, and this adds so much more detail to the image. Wide color gamut is all about how many colors are available in the color palette. Normal video, also known as SDR, which stands for Standard Dynamic Range, uses 8 bits to define the color. That gives you 8 bits for red, 8 bits for green and 8 bits for blue. 8 bits is 256, so we have 256 reds, 256 greens and 256 blues that we can mix together to make any color we want. 256 times 256 times 256 is 16,777,216 colors to play with. That sounds pretty good, right? Well, with HDR10 we have 10 bits for each color. 10 bits gives us 1024 instead of 256. So we now have 1024 reds, 1024 greens and 1024 blues. That gives us over 1 billion colors to play with in our color palette, compared to 16 million colors with SDR using 8 bits for color. That is quite a big difference. 12-bit color gives you 4096 reds, 4096 greens and 4096 blues, resulting in over 68 billion colors. One more thing you should know is that there are multiple competing HDR formats out there. The most common one is HDR10, but there is also HLG and Dolby Vision. They all pretty well do the same thing, just in slightly different ways. That is why we really want to make sure every video distribution system we install for our customers supports all forms of HDR, as it makes a massive difference to the image quality. Now that Sky and Netflix are now providing HDR content, you really need to be on board with this, or you might find your customer is upset when he does not get that HDR logo appear on his brand new TV, because the video distribution system you sold him does not support all forms of HDR. Now that we understand HDR, let's look at some high-quality video distribution with HDR. Let's head back to the AVProEdge Systems office and see what we have to show you. Allow me to introduce AVProEdge. They make the very best high-quality video distribution, and you probably won't be surprised to hear that their kit supports full-fat 4K, and all forms of HDR. If you were paying attention in the previous section, then you will now know that this is exactly what you need. At the beginning of this talk I mentioned that you have two technologies to choose from: HD-based or video over IP. Let's look at the HD-based solutions first. AVProEdge have a 4x4 and an 8x8, and modular chassis that can be equipped up to 16x16. All these solutions can deliver full-fat 4K, with any of the forms of HDR over Cat6 or Cat6a. They have some great features, including full EDID management, so you can manage what EDID is sent to the source devices, because if you are not managing the EDID, then the EDID is managing you. 1080p downscaling, so you can handle those annoying legacy 1080p displays. Audio extraction with lip sync delay, so you can extract the audio and send it into your audio distribution system. IR and RS-232 pass-through. And they all come with a massive 10-year manufacturer's warranty. These are great solutions and very cost-effective, but ideally HD-based solutions need HD-based approved Cat6 or Cat6a, and you really should not have any patch panels or outlets in the link to the display. Sometimes you do not have this, and you run the risk of problems if the cable infrastructure is not good enough. HD-based runs at 8 gigabits per second, so it really is pushing the cable infrastructure to its limits. Also, while you have some flexibility with the 16x16 modular chassis, you are locked into the rigid 4x4, or 8x8 form factor. What if you want more flexibility, to build odd-shaped matrix solutions, and you might need to add more sources or more displays later? And what if you don't have ideal cable infrastructure, which might even be Cat5e? Enter Video over IP. This technology allows you to build any shape or size of matrix, as you buy an encoder for each source and a decoder for each display, and they all plug into an Ethernet switch, and you can easily add more later. Additionally, because we are only running at 1 gigabit per second, instead of 8 gigabits per second, we are not really pushing the cables very hard, so you can run on older Cat5e cables, and you can go through patch panels and outlets. The trouble with video over IP is that traditionally you did not get full-fat 4K with HDR unless you used switches with 10 gig ports, which cost a fortune. Well, I am pleased to let you know, that has changed. With AVProEdge's video over IP system, called MXNet, we can now do full-fat 4K with all forms of HDR using a switch with 1 gig ports. This product is a game changer. It is still a more expensive solution than the HD-based matrices, but it provides so much flexibility, it is worth it. So with MXNet you have an encoder for each source, a decoder for each display, and they all plug into the MXNet Ethernet switch. There is also a controller that plugs into the MXNet switch, and it also plugs into the main network, so the video traffic is kept completely separate from the main network. AVProEdge have made this solution plug and play, as you can literally take the MXNet switch out the box and plug it in. There is no configuration to be done. Just plug it in and go. Again, the AVProEdge MXNet video over IP solution has some great features, including full EDID management, as you do not want the EDID managing you. 1080p downscaling at each decoder. Audio extraction at the encoders with an option to be able to Dolby downmix multi-channel audio to 2-channel stereo. IR and RS232 pass-through. It also has instant switching, so that when you switch sources the change is instant with no black screen on the display. Additionally, they have fiber ports on the encoders and decoders, for those long runs, and they have 10 gig ports on the switches, so you can hang a switch off a switch, for those big projects. MXNet also does unlimited video walls with bezel compensation. And again, you get a 10-year warranty. It really is a great solution, and if you wanted to standardize on one solution that will meet your technical requirements and fit any size project, then this is the solution for you. Thank you for listening. I hope you have found this video useful. If you have any questions, please get in touch and we would be pleased to help you in any way we can.